There is always room for Caponata. Trust me. Anyways, the old coot here coming back at you with another exciting video. Caponata with some like rustic bread, some soured dough. Oh my God, delicious. Absolutely delicious. So anyways, I'm going to talk about the main ingredients right first. This is the first video in this series. There's going to be a few more videos after this showing you each step in the cooking process. But let me talk about the main ingredients first, and then I'll talk about how I prep them to be ready for the next stages. Okay, so what I've got here is one whole eggplant, right? One big eggplant. Then I've got 6 bell peppers. Then I've got a tomato. I've got an onion. I've got 4 stalks of celery, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I've got an entire bulb of garlic. I've got, give or take, around a half a cup of olives, green olives, usually. Then I've got around, I would say like just shy of like maybe 3 tablespoons of capers. I've got I'm going to eventually use a half a cup of red wine vinegar, right? Just good old red wine vinegar. Then I'm going to use around 1 tablespoon of sugar. So let's go into each ingredient, what we're going to do with it. So what I did with the eggplant was I sliced it lengthwise, right, into give or take around 3/4 of an inch thick wedges. So that's what's going on in there. What I did was, after slicing them, I mixed up some water with around 3 tablespoons of salt. So the water salt is a salt water mixture. I put the eggplant in, and what I did was I weighed the eggplant down so that it stays below the top of the water, so it stays submerged in the water with the salt. What this does is this helps to pull out the bitterness of the eggplant. Old school trick. Now you know, right? If you know, then you know. What you'll notice, I know it's kind of hard to pick up on camera. What you'll notice is the water may turn like a different color. It may turn like a purpley color. It may turn like a brown color. It may turn like a slightly gray color. That's all the bitterness coming out, right? So that's normal. I'm going to let this sit here for about a half an hour. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain off the water, pull out the eggplant, pat it dry with a towel or a paper towel or whatever the case may be. So just pat it dry, get it ready for the barbecue. Okay, bell pepper, 6 bell peppers. Traditionally, red, yellow, right? All red, all yellow. I bought whatever was on sale because I'm broke. So 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 orange. Costco sells that variety pack like that. It's usually around like less than $9 or something like that, which honestly was like the best price I could find. If you only have access to the green ones, or maybe, you want to save a little bit of money, you want to get the green ones, totally fine. It just gives it a different flavor. It could be a good thing. Who knows? But anyways, I usually use red and yellow or red, orange, yellow. You kind of get an idea. Tomato. Heirloom preferred, vine ripened preferred. If you can grow them in your garden, that's even better. But 1 huge tomato, right? This is about the size of like my hand. If you have 2 smaller ones that are vine ripe, that's good. That's totally fine. You get the idea. 1 huge onion, same thing. This is the big onion. Red onion, yellow onion, Maui, Vidal. It makes no difference as long as you're using onion. So 2 smaller ones is okay. 1 large one, a medium and a small, medium and a half, whatever it is. But the onion, same thing. Washed, clean, ready to go to the barbecue. Okay, then I've got 4 stalks of celery. What I'm going to do with these is I just cleaned them. I basically cut off the ends that I'm not going to use. I cut off the ends here that I'm not going to use. These are going to get ready to go to the barbecue. So this is barbecue action. What I'm eventually going to do, you'll see it in the next video, is I'm going to turn my barbecue on to like medium to high heat. So I want a pretty aggressive flame. I'm going to slap all this down on the grill and then literally just get a little light char, a toasting, a little caramelization. I'm not trying to burn anything, and I'm also not trying to quote unquote cook anything through. What I want to do is just give it a little bit of a char to give it a little more depth of flavor. Those natural sugars that are in the onion especially, but the tomato, the bell pepper, the eggplant, the celery, those natural sugars are going to help to develop more, which is going to give you more caramelization, right? You hear that word a lot. It's just going to give a little bit more depth to the final finished Caponata product. Okay, so that's that. That's going to be in the next video. What I'm going to do with the garlic is, this is 1 entire bulb of garlic. you see me do videos on garlic before. I try to get the garlic that has this root structure still attached. Usually I find that's the best garlic. Go back in my videos, you'll see why I like this garlic the most. But anyways, one bulb of garlic. What I'm going to do is peel this, and then I'm going to chop it, right? Chop, chop, chop. I'm going to chop this into about 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch pieces. Nice big chunks of garlic, nice garlic flavor. You get the idea. Olives, green olives. I kind of buy whatever's on sale. Today I'm using these, right? Di Buon Gusto green Castelvetrano olives. What I did was I pitted them. I took the pits out and then basically just gave them like a little bit of like a rough chop. Sometimes just taking the pit out, you'll kind of get this texture anyway. But you want something like, 1/2 inch pieces of olive. Black olive, green olive, honestly, whatever you like, whatever you can afford. The flavor on these is pretty mild, right? Not too vinegary, not too salty, just kind of mild. It's kind of neutral. So that's why today I'm using these. But if you want to use something like a pre-pitted green olive, that's totally fine too. Go to your olive monger, deli counter, whatever the case may be. If you can find them without the pits, even better. Just give them a little rough chop, like I said, around 1/2 inch pieces or so. Okay, capers. Unfortunately, Costco stopped carrying these. So I had to go somewhere else to find them. But this is usually the brand that I like, Del Destino Nonpareil capers. What I do is I just put them in a little jar like this. There's about just shy of 3 tablespoons. And what I do is I'm just going to soak them in water to get rid of some of that super saltiness. I do want to leave them whole because when I bite into my Caponata, when I bite into these, it's like a little salty pop every once in a while, right? If you want to chop them up, that's totally fine too. I just like them like this. That's how I usually use them. Okay, so then what I've got is a 1/2 cup of red wine vinegar, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this out into a little glass like this. I'm going to measure out something like around like to there, which is around like a 1/2 cup or so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tablespoon of sugar mixed in with the vinegar. So what I'm doing is I'm creating that like salty, sweet kind of vibe, that little tartiness. And what I'm going to do is when I'm cooking the Caponata in the final stages, that's when I'll add this. I'm just going to pour a little bit in, maybe like a teaspoon at a time, or like maybe just like a tablespoon initially and then a teaspoon at a time after that. Taste it, pour in a little more. If it needs a little more, taste it, pour in a little more. If it doesn't need it, I won't add it. I'll just, whatever. But anyways, usually I find that around a 1/2 cup comes out to the perfect measurement. And like I said, every time I make Caponata, there's always a little something different. Something maybe it's more salty, maybe it's more vinegary, whatever the case may be. But I find that just pour a little in, mix it up, taste it, see how it is. Okay, salt, right? Salt. You have to be careful with the salt because you got to remember the eggplant is soaking in salt water. Then you've got the saltiness from the olives, the saltiness from the capers. So salt is a thing that you want to add literally almost at the very, very end. It's like kind of where you poured in your vinegar and sugar mixture a little bit at a time, taste it, and then taste for salt as well. Usually, I might put maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in if it needs it. Sometimes it doesn't even need it, but salt is to taste. Black pepper, same thing. You can add it if you want to. This is kind of more of like a mellowy kind of sweet and sour kind of a dish. It's an appetizer with some sourdough bread. Tastes delicious. So I try, it kind of depends. Sometimes I'll put in pepper, sometimes I won't. But if I do put pepper in there, it's literally like maybe a 1/4 teaspoon or something like that. Just very, very little. So anyways, that's the basic ingredients. That's the basic overview of what we're doing today. Stay tuned for the next video after this one. We're going to go to the barbecue and I'll show you the eggplant, the bell pepper, the onion, the tomato, and the celery being barbecued. And then I'll come back with another video and then prep the other stuff and then show you how I prep the rest of it. Anyways, links are down below in the description, also in the comment section. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. I'm the Old Coot. We're going to make Caponata today. It's going to be friggin' amazing. And I'll catch you all on the next exciting video.